All right, it is Saturday, and I missed Friday's special edition from the Wuzi. I've actually been excited for this one. I forgot I just read the first sentence. It is January 20th, 2024. We're on Saturday, and this is a special edition of Stand Tall. Verse 5 out of the Wuzi. Wu Qi said, "There are 5 causes of war: the pursuit of fame, wealth, revenge, rebellion, and famine. There are also 5 types of army: strong, violent, determined, righteous, and treacherous." A strong army refers to the reliance on numbers to subdue the enemy. A violent army is one that understands only money and has no understanding of the rituals. A determined army is a sort raised in anger. A righteous army refers to those that quell a rebellion. Lastly, a treacherous army is raised by those who take advantage of unstable situations in the state to encourage the people to revolt. Dealing with each type of army requires a different strategy. The righteous army will submit only to reason. The strong army must be appeased. The determined army must be persuaded, and the violent army must be tricked, and the treacherous must be dealt with by force. That is a lot to pack in. 5 causes of war is what I think is, of course, the first thing I read, and what I thought would be fun to focus on: the pursuit of fame, wealth, revenge, rebellion, and famine. So the pursuit of fame. Everybody wants to be famous now. There's even an ironic argument in me making these readings and posting them to the internet in there. Wealth, the same argument. Revenge, the interesting intertwisted argument that I think a lot of people go through of grudges from your past that truly don't matter. Rebellion and famine. And those last two, the first images that conjure up for me are food shortages and other various forms of rebellion that we've seen around the year 2020 and 2021. But laying out the various strategies on how to deal with each type of army is also very interesting. Oh, like a violent army is one that understands only money and no understanding of rituals. A determined is the sort raised in anger, right? So, man, a righteous army refers to those that quell a rebellion. Lastly, a treacherous army is raised by those who take advantage of unstable situations in the state. Just all of these different types of what could happen in those times. And I think that each of those types of armies can be studied for the emotions that they evoke. And you can definitely apply that to a personal level on how to counter some of those emotions, right? Like the determined one raised by anger. How determined are you to pursue one of these 5 causes of war? Are you angry because you're not famous? Are you angry because you're not wealthy? Are you angry because you want revenge? Are you angry because you're feeling suppressed? Are you angry because you're hungry? Famine, right? So that's like all of these armies can be raised from many of these different causes of war. And so it's very interesting to break that down and look at the complexity of the different strategies that might come from that, not only historically, but within ourselves as well. Okay. So now we're going to go over to the Daily Stoics reading. This book is by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. We're on the 20th of January, entitled Reignite Your Thoughts. Your principles can't be extinguished unless you snuff out the thoughts that feed them. Principles. Principles can be good or bad, for it's continually in your power to reignite new ones. It's possible to start living again, see things anew as you once did. This is how to restart life. Marcus Aurelius, Meditation 7.2. It's the hardest thing to restart life, to become someone that those closest to you aren't used to. There's various reasons that people will ascribe meaning to that. any reason to give them an excuse not to define it as character growth, as personal growth within someone else that's not them. Everyone loves an underdog story until they're no longer the underdog. It's just kind of like this nasty side of human nature that we always want to just that. So your principles can't be extinguished unless you snuff out the thoughts that feed them. And I think, and it's continually in your power to reignite new ones. I think both of those separately and together are important. Um, because you can't extinguish like those like things that continually play through your head, whether positive or negative. So like words like honesty, perseverance, integrity, determination, these words that, if you're brought up in the right circumstances where these values are not only repeated through teachings and cooperation through teamwork, whether you play sports or whatever kind of teachers you have in your school. These are the true heroes, of course, that espouse these principles, but not only that, they live them. Um, and they lead by example. And those are the real heroes that we need to lift up in society, because without them, personally, my personal anecdote is without those everyday heroes, I never would be um, able to gain inner strength when it came time of bad things happening to pull myself back up. So you have to snuff out the thoughts of the bad ones. Um, that one is a little bit more harder to define, but I think we all know generally bad habits, whether it be smoking, overeating, drinking to excess, too much TV, too much pornography, too much lying, too much stealing. Um, and I mean, the deadly sins, that's a whole nother discussion of things that are kind of like these instant excommunicators. And I mean, that's why we have the whole system of uh, the prison industrial complex. Again, another discussion for another day. Have you had a bad couple of weeks? Have you been drifting away from the principles and beliefs that you hold dear? It's perfectly fine. It happens to all of us. In fact, it probably happened to Marcus. I think it happens to us a lot. I think it happens to me a lot. And I think there is nothing wrong with those of us who consistently try to reignite and reinforce those good principles that we want to live out. Though we may err and though we may fail time and time again, because we are human, there's nothing wrong with repeating and drifting back once you've drifted away and reaffirming who you are to others. All right. Perhaps he'd been dealing with difficult senators or having difficulties with his troubled son. Perhaps in these scenarios he'd lost his temper, become depressed, or stopped checking in with himself. Who wouldn't? But the reminder here is that no matter what happens, no matter how disappointing our behavior has been in the past, the principles themselves remain unchanged. We can return and embrace them at any moment. What happened yesterday, what happened 5 minutes ago is in the past. We can reignite and restart our life whenever we like. Why not do it right now? And that's what makes it so hard. Is whether it's something as simple as a diet. It doesn't matter how much food and lack of exercise you've had in the past, the sooner you start, the better. Everyone has done bad things, I believe. And I think that everyone always deserves the opportunity to redefine themselves. And I've been rewarded for extending that opportunity to people before. And because it's something that if I were somehow transported out of my life to nowhere and given a new appearance and a new identity, that I would be able to live by certain principles within me to emerge into success once again. Um, I don't know. I spend a lot of time trying to analyze certain things from repetitive angles, and time and time again there's like these things that just kind of like replay in my head. And I think it's our duty as we get older to repeat those and put those things back into the world because, well, because those are good, because those are good things, because they've led to good in my life. And I think there's other things that people can give meaning to that they trick themselves into believing are good for their life, but their priorities don't match their principles. But if we keep standing tall and remaining on the high ground, right? Take the high ground, lest the high ground take you, then the optimal outcome will be achieved because we've done everything we can to the best of our ability.